Hey Grace kids, here we go, another lesson, and we're going to be talking about Solomon at the end of his life and what happens after Solomon. And it didn't go so well because he chose someone other than God. All these false gods. And we'll get into that, but the title of today is The Kingdom Divided. What? No, not the Kingdom Divided. Yes, the Kingdom Divided. And this comes from 1 Kings chapter 11 and chapter 12. So if you want to read that with your parents after this, that'd be great. And that way you get a little bit more of what's going on. But our verse has been James chapter 1 and verse 5. And it says, "If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God that giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him." And you know, there is one necessary understanding here that wisdom does not save us. And Solomon might have been given a whole load of wisdom, but you know what? He chose not to use it. He chose to go the opposite direction. And so he still was broken and fell short of the glory of God. So we see here our question: what does God know? God knows everything about past, present, and future. Our past, present, and future. Your past, present, and future. Everyone's past, present. God knows everything. All right? And so here we get into God divided Israel into two kingdoms because Solomon sinned. So Solomon loved God, but not with his whole heart. And that's very important for you to love God with everything that you are. Nothing held back. Love God with everything. And the thing that he decided to do that really reflected how he didn't love God was that he started marrying all these wives. One wife after another. He had actually hundreds of wives, okay? There was an issue here, all right? Because he would get all of these wives from all of these other different nations. And guess what happens? These other nations worshipped false gods. And when these wives would come into Israel, they'd bring in their false gods with them. And it turned out that they actually turned Solomon's heart towards these false gods later on in his life. And God was angry because Solomon was worshiping something other than God. So he says this: "Since you have done this, I will take the kingdom away from you. You will be the king for the rest of your life, but your son, when he becomes king, he will lose all but one tribe." Oh, that's not a good legacy to leave behind, right? My son, the consequences of my sin is going to pass on to my son. That's got to wake up Solomon. But you know, Solomon died, and Rehoboam, his son, becomes king. And Rehoboam's trying to figure out how to rule the land. And the people come up to him and say, "Your father Solomon made us work too hard," because they're building this and that and this and that. And so they asked him, they said, or they told him, "We will gladly serve you if you make our work easier." So just kind of lighten the load, Rehoboam. Solomon wanted to build all these things and do all these things, and our job was pretty tough. So we're just asking you to kind of lighten the load. But you know what? He says, I should get some counsel from some different people. So he asked Solomon's friends for advice. And they said, be kind to your workers. If you be kind to them, they will work for you forever. It's a good thought. We need to be kind to people. We need to be nice to people. Did he pay attention to that advice? No, he ignored it. He went off to his friends, seeing what they had to say. And they said this: "Your dad didn't make work hard enough." Okay? Let's make it tougher. So that's what he does. He goes out to the people, says, "My father didn't make work hard enough for you. I'm going to make you work even harder." Isn't that the exact opposite of what they asked for? Yep. And it created problems. there was most of the tribes, except for all the tribes except for one, split away to make the northern kingdom. And they made Jeroboam, one of Solomon's old officials, as their king. And Rehoboam got the southern kingdom, which was one tribe, the tribe of Judah. And Rehoboam didn't like that Jeroboam took the kingdom. So guess what? He planned to attack. But God sent a prophet right beforehand. Said, stop. This is the words of the Lord. Do not fight them, because of these people of Israel is part of your family. Don't fight your family. Stop. Don't go any farther. God says, I am the Lord, and I am in control of what is happening. So what does that mean for even today? There's a lot of crazy stuff happening. Is God in control? Yes, He is. He is in control no matter what. And God was in control in this situation, and Rehoboam decided that he would just go back home. He would just let it go. But you know, Jeroboam wasn't a good king. See, he got a little jealous because the people that were in his kingdom kept traveling back to Jerusalem to make sacrifices in the temple. Isn't that what they're supposed to do? Yes. They're doing what they're supposed to do, and they keep traveling back. And Jeroboam thinks, oh, well, they might make Rehoboam their ruler again. So he decided to make 2 golden calves and set them up. And says, well, it's just too difficult to travel to Jerusalem. Don't worry about that. I've set up 2 golden calves for you. They're the ones that brought you out of Egypt. What? No, that can't be right. 2 golden calves brought them out of Egypt? Well, that's what he said. And he told them to worship these golden calves. This was sin. It wasn't true. He lied to them, but he also brought in false gods. This was a major, major issue toward Jeroboam would have to deal with the consequences of that later on. You know, Christ, how does he connect with all of this? Well, as we've stated multiple times, you know, Solomon was a pretty good king, but he messed up. Israel needed a better king, one who would come through the Davidic line and rise up and be an eternal king. Guess what? Who's that? It's Jesus. And he's the one that brings unity. He's the one that brings us back to God. So it's very, very important for us to pay attention to Christ and all that he is and follow him rather than everyone else. So let's ask a few questions. How did Solomon sin? Remember, he brought in many, many wives. He had so many weddings. Brought in all these wives with all the what? False gods. And so he ended up worshiping the false gods later on in life. Why did Rehoboam get so angry? Why did he get the people angry? Well, let's answer the second question first. He made the people angry because he wanted to make work even harder under his reign because he listened to the wrong people. Let's just face it. He listened to the wrong people. And so he ended up getting angry because Jeroboam took part of the kingdom, most of the kingdom away from him, so he wanted to attack. So what led Jeroboam into sin? What was it that was sinful for him? Well, he decided to be jealous. He made the decision to build 2 golden calves and place them as an opportunity for worship. And that's so wrong. There's no other gods before me. That's what God says. Don't build any graven images. Don't make any idols. That's what God says. And Jeroboam did the exact opposite. So why did Solomon worship these false gods when he had so much wisdom? Well, the answer goes back to the very fact that wisdom cannot save us. And even though he had wisdom, he still had to make the decisions. He still had to say no to the flesh. He still had to say no to sin. And he didn't. He messed up. Bad. Messed up very bad. So why was Rehoboam still king after he messed up? Why just one tribe? Why divide it? Why not just keep everybody together? Well, the reason why Rehoboam stayed alive and stayed king is because God had promised that there would be a king from David's line. So he's keeping his promises. But at the same time, there had to be consequences to sin. So he had to lose, as God had promised to Solomon. He had to lose part of the kingdom, most of the kingdom. So pretty rough circumstances, which means that we need to pay attention to the wisdom that God gives us. It's better to pay attention to his wisdom than some of the horrific wisdom that some people have for us. So what's our activity for today? We're going to play Would You Rather. You say, what do you mean? Well, you make up a would you rather jump in a mud pit, or would you rather jump in a snake pit? And then the person you are asking has to answer which one. I'm guessing probably mud pit. Unless there's like piranhas in the mud pit, and then I'd say neither. But to these questions, you have to pick one or the other. Would you rather eat a 7-day-old cheeseburger, or would you rather eat someone else's chewed off fingernail? Oh, that's gross. Oh, that's nasty, right? What would you pick? I don't know. That sounds gross. I'll stay away from both. But that's a game that you can play. And why are we playing it? Because they are deciding, Rehoboam was deciding which wisdom he was going to choose. Would you rather make it easier or make it harder? But then the people decided, Jeroboam or Rehoboam? Which one? So, hope you enjoyed that lesson for today. We will talk to you soon, kids.